Hey there, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Undefined Life Podcast. I'm your host, Fatima Denga, and today we're going to dive into a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and this is about entitlement. That's right. We are going to unpack the problem with entitlement in all its glory. So I ask you to sit back, relax, and get ready for some brutal honesty mixed with a touch of wisdom. In this podcast, I am as practical as life can get. So get ready. So, what brought about this topic, you could be wondering? In my last podcast episode, where I talked about compromise, I mentioned a group of people in that episode who demand that others compromise for them while they never compromise. So, these folks are the entitled folks. Hence, I want to break this down in this podcast topic because I'm sure we have all encountered them or have been them somewhere in our lifetime. So, let's start by defining what entitlement is. We all gotta know what it is, right? Well, at least it will get us on the same page. Well, I hope anyway. So, the first definition defines entitlement as the fact of having a right to something, right to privilege or benefit, granted by law or custom. So, I'm going to give you an example. Well, some examples. The right to life, the right to a fair trial, the right to marry, the right to safety, or the right to be respected. So in short, a whole lot of human rights are human entitlements. These are all fair and good entitlements, right? But, I say but because why does having a sense of entitlement or feeling entitled rub people up the wrong way, considering that entitlement is a right? I'm going to ask you again. If being entitled is right, and it is a right, pun intended, why do entitled people use it to justify ill-treating others? Why do entitled people use their entitlement in a negative way towards others? Why does entitlement create friction in our relationships with others? And I think it requires us to look at more definitions of the word entitlement, because surely it's not just about our human rights. So I've got a second definition for you here, which says entitlement is the belief that one inherently deserves privileges or special treatment without necessarily earning it. If you get special treatment without earning it, that's interesting. So, although I do think in some instances demanding privileges by being entitled usually may have earned it. An example is a democratically elected president. They may feel entitled to VIP treatment in honor of their position in office. And to be truthful, I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't say they're not entitled because it's a position of honor. And surely, they will be entitled to some special VIP privileges. A third definition goes on to say one is entitled or has a sense of entitlement when they go around with an attitude of superiority and with the expectation that others should cater to their needs and desires. Now, this one kind of goes hand in hand with those people that I talked about in my compromise podcast, who just expect others to compromise for them. So it usually then means they will look down on others who they expect entitleties from. I've just decided to create my own word. The people that they expect entitleties from. From this example, I actually want to add something that I relate to, which is, for example, when people use hierarchy as a sense of entitlement, or when we pull rank when wanting to demand certain privileges, which is another form of entitlement. When someone deliberately uses their age or position to gain this entitlement advantage, I certainly relate because I have used it myself. I'm an older sister and I'm a mom, so guess what? But society is also partly to blame. I wouldn't even say blame. Let's look at other societal practical examples of entitlement. The first one I want to start with is race entitlement, which was likely used during slavery or any form of dispersing people who belong to a land and you take over. In this example, slave owners probably believed that they should be handed everything on a silver platter just because they existed as white saviors. And as ridiculous as it sounds, There are unfortunately some people who still think this way. You'd be surprised how prevalent this mindset is in our society today. Not only among races, but it's there in castes. If you just go and look at the Indian hierarchy of people, if you look at nationalities, some nationalities believe that they are more entitled because they feel they're superior. Gender, class system, relationships, all examples of our societal entitlements. My point is, entitlement rears its ugly head in various forms, from demanding instant gratification to feeling superior to others. Entitlement can manifest itself in our relationships at work and even in social settings. Entitled individuals who believe that they're owed something simply because they are who they are. Now, you have to admit you've all met someone like that. But here's the harsh truth that human beings do not want to accept. And this is, being entitled kills you slowly. Being entitled kills the entitled individual slowly because it creates an addiction to power, control, and domination within. If you're entitled, I just want you to know, being entitled is killing your soul. Because when you live from an entitled place, A, you feel superior to others, that you end up imposing yourself on them. B, it will create a negative feedback loop in your life. And I'm going to talk about this later. So if you know that you are entitled, you feel superior to people, or you feel like, oh, I'm better than them, or I'm in this position, so they've got to do something for me, I want you to listen to this podcast because I'm a personal development guru and I'm going to help you. I bet you struggle in a lot of relationships. I want to ask a question. But where does this entitlement come from? Is it a product of our upbringing, our society, or something else entirely? I'm going to propose, in our current culture of instant gratification and self-centeredness, is it any wonder that a sense of entitlement has become deeply ingrained in the society that we live in? It seems that everywhere we turn, someone is demanding things simply because they believe they are owed them. From entitled celebrities, entitled politicians, to entitled customers in general. I have been a nurse for 20-something years. And if you want to talk about entitlement, let me tell you, I've seen it all. I have nursed people in Belgravia, London, and I've nursed people in the lowest parts of England. And let me tell you, they're entitled individuals everywhere. So let's continue to delve into the concept of entitlement. Being entitled, a sense of entitlement. Because I really want to try and uncover the truth behind its cultural significance. Because entitlement is somehow tied to our culture. And I'm saying this as somebody who's sort of like looked at this topic and thought, I need to bring a bit of balance to this. Because people just don't become entitled. Something happens for them to be entitled. A sense of entitlement can be seen in various aspects of our lives, from entitled children who demand toys and attention from their parents, to entitled cultural expressions through hierarchies. I already know and I already see how entitled children are. But you can imagine they're not aware that they're entitled. So something must happen, I believe, for them to know how to navigate the balance of, yes, I'm entitled, but I don't need to be so demanding. So I'm going to ask you some questions. What causes this mindset to develop in the first place? Do people develop an entitled attitude? Were they born like that? Well, there could be a variety of reasons behind it. Maybe they were raised in an environment where they were constantly told how special and perfect they are. Some experts argue that entitlement stems from a combination of factors, including parenting styles, societal values, and personal experiences. Not being funny, but there's certain nationalities, no matter what, when you meet the people, they all seem entitled. And I really believe that this really ties into that. So another reason could be perhaps someone is entitled because they never faced any real challenges growing up, and therefore they developed unrealistic expectations about the world around them. There is the notion that children who are raised with overly permissive parents may grow up feeling entitled because they've never been taught the value of hard work or humility. I can only think of children to extremely wealthy people. And it makes sense. If everything has been handed to you on a silver platter, why would you believe that you are not entitled to anything? As I said, I'm a parent myself, and I'm always trying to navigate or find balance between being gentle, nurturing, and providing emotional safety, but also needing to be firm while fostering kindness, empathy, and emotional resilience through the challenges that my child faces. It's not easy, I can tell you this, but know this. I want to raise a person who will not be entitled, but recognizes the value in others, including herself. So, as I'm bringing this topic to you, I want you to know that I have done a lot of reflection, and I think I'm learning as I grow. Similarly, living in a society that values individualism and material wealth can also be a contributory factor to feelings of entitlement. Think about it. When success is equated with material possessions and status symbols, individuals may come to believe that they're entitled to such luxuries simply by virtue of their existence and be entitled to the adoration and worship from others. It's like somehow it's to do with the status, isn't it? And it's so easy for people to fall into the trap of entitlement. In our current world, social media, I find, exacerbates this issue by promoting a comparison culture which creates a false sense of reality. If you think about it, everyone seems to have it better than you do when you look at social media. I think this constant exposure to these unattainable standards and goals can fuel feelings of inadequacy and actually breed a sense of entitlement. Especially if you're the one who's like observing others on social media who seem to always be on the come up. You start to strive for unrealistic levels of wealth, fame, and influence. And I think this is why social media, like platforms like TikTok, Instagrams, are doing quite well. Because everybody's like, yeah, me too, I can make it. I don't think there's anything wrong with ambition. But then to have this sense of I'm entitled to certain things, I don't know. I don't see that as purely healthy. I don't know. I think it fuels other issues like outcomes where people might end up like seeing themselves as failures or anxieties. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. But think about it. We now even have a career out of being an influencer. People are like, I'm an influencer. And I'm not mocking influencers, by the way, because we really need people who are influencers. But I'm just trying to show you like how there's been a whole genre, well, there's been a creation of a whole new way of working. Having done my research on entitlement, I have found that most of this research tends to focus solely on Western society, completely disregarding the fact that entitlement exists in every system around the world. I'm African, and in Africa, we are raised with a sense of entitlement. Although we may not label it as such, we refer to it as respect, honor, or simply doing what is right. So, leaders in Africa will believe that they're entitled to whatever they desire. They demand it, they expect it, and if it is not fulfilled, there's severe consequences for those who fail. In an African context, if you're a leader, most leaders believe they're entitled to whatever they desire. They demand it, expect it, and if it is not fulfilled, there are severe consequences for those who fail to meet their expectations or fail to show the respect they felt they deserved. This entitlement is prevalent in African culture and it is weaved into various relationships. You also see in Western society, depending on their upbringing and values. So, for example, a leader to their followers, they have entitlement through hierarchy. A husband to his wife, this is patriarchal entitlement or masculine entitlement. A parent to their children, parental entitlement. An older sibling to their younger sibling, hierarchical entitlements. An experienced colleague to a novice, hierarchical or entitlement by rank. A religious leader to their congregation, entitlement through hierarchy. Hierarchies breed a strong sense of entitlement. causing those who benefit to constantly anticipate special treatment, respect, and recognition. They feel as though they are owed this treatment, and when it is not received, it results in anger, reprimand, and punishment. I know instances where it resulted in victimization, defamation, and slander, all in the name of a person who did not give them what they felt they were owed or entitled to. Now, the part of me that believes in healthy humanity doesn't see that as okay. I start to see that there's a flaw in that mindset. I want you to know that I also understand this dynamic of why a society without hierarchical structures and order will be in anarchy, and I understand why we need it. But entitlement that is never questioned and seeks only to be fed through the gratification of its needs, dangerous, and can be resentment, hatred, bitterness, and inability to forgive and seek revenge. And if you think I'm wrong, look at most world wars. Look at most conflicts. What happens? What causes that? Entitlement creates a sense of power in people who think they deserve respect, guised as, I need respect. But here's the thing. This type of entitlement is toxic. Not just for the person who feels entitled, but for everyone around them. And I'll explain. It leads to arrogance, ingratitude, and overall negativity. When someone is entitled and doesn't realize it, it can slowly turn into narcissism. Nobody wants to be around someone who acts like they're better than another or better than everyone else that they and deserve special treatment all the time. Entitled people, I don't know about you, but I find entitled people are very unforgiving. Yet they expect forgiveness from others. They are so focused on their own ego and need for validation through respect, honor, recognition, and special treatment that they become selfish. And as I said, in worst case scenarios, narcissistic or psychopathic in nature. Look at history and study people who were known for being entitled and watch the harm they cause to humanity. I rest my case on that one. I actually want to talk about some of the common signs that someone may have an entitled mindset. Now, this is to try and sort of help us look at ourselves and be self-reflective, bring us into sort of like self-awareness. Let's not forget about the entitled individual's favorite phrase. Do you know who I am? This classic line is often used as a way to assert superiority over others and demand preferential treatment based on their perceived status or importance. And the aim is to cause fear in the hearers, thus the ability to overpower and control them. Because why else would you be demanding, do you know who I am? And I understand this is very nuanced. There's times when people have had to say that. But if you find that somebody goes around always saying, do you know who I am? Red flag, entitled. A major red flag is someone constantly blames others for their own failures or shortcomings. They refuse to take responsibility for their actions and instead point fingers at everyone else except themselves. And I'm going to give you some example statements. Well, if they had only respected me by doing so and so, then maybe I would not have done so and so, being a classic example. In this instance, the person is trying to say, because I didn't get respect from them not doing this, so then I did this, because I didn't get what I felt entitled to. It's like a tit for tat kind of thing. And I find that's so common when we are entitled. We go into this tit for tat type of energy. Another sign of entitlement is when someone expects special treatment without putting in the effort or work required to earn it. They believe they should automatically receive praise, rewards, or recognition without having done anything to deserve it. An example is, well, of course, I should be invited and acknowledged even when they've not shown any interest at all. Or you see this, certain people at work, they just feel entitled to certain things at work, but yet they don't even pull in, the work or the effort that is required to the team. Another common sign is the inability to apologize or be completely non-remorseful. I know I'm kind of understating this one, but this is huge entitlement red flag. And this is particularly true when someone does not feel they should apologize or that the person or people do not deserve an apology. It is usually because they do not feel to forgive and that the people they should be forgiving are not entitled to forgiveness either. It comes with a lot of harsh judgments, but ultimately there's a sense of entitlement there. They simply feel they're better than others and therefore they harbor bitterness and resentment and grudges over how they were wronged, but they refuse to see the view of others. For this reason, they will withhold forgiveness. Ah, my. Do you sense how entitlement can end up becoming something even more? And if you've read stories or heard about narcissistic people, they don't care. They will ill treat people, but they feel entitled to good treatment. They don't ever say they're sorry. And neither do they believe that people deserve to be forgiven. So how do we combat entitlement both within ourselves and in others? I can see how sometimes we can all kind of become like this, especially when we think, oh, no one should wrong me. When people wrong me, oh my goodness, they don't deserve this. Because if that's your mindset, can I tell you something? Nobody's perfect. And offenses will always come. Get used to it and stop being entitled. Do we combat entitlement then, both within ourselves and in others? Firstly, you cannot combat entitlement. You cannot confront entitlement in others unless they're your young child or someone very close to you where your relationship has reached a place of conflict requiring that entitlement is dealt with. So in this instance, I suggest a therapist because they're non-judgmental and independent of you. Plus, a well-trained therapist will recognize the dynamics of entitled individuals. Please note, entitled individuals only stop being entitled because they have chosen to do so. So for you, if you are dealing with an entitled individual, I would say your first step is self-awareness. B, ask yourself if you're being entitled. Examine your relationships and interactions with people, as this will reveal areas where you may exhibit entitled behavior. C, examine your upbringing. What messages did you hear or receive about who you are in the world and how people should treat you? If people do not treat you this way, how do you react? That's a really important question. If people don't treat me with the way I should be seen or valued, how do you react? So in this instance, I'm not talking about when people mistreat you because they're entitled. I'm talking about when it's you encountering people. Are these reactions? So when people do not treat you this way, how do you react? And are these reactions helpful to you? Or do they generate some kind of feeling of being disrespected, which makes you angry and feel you deserve more or want to punish the other person or people? D, at times we may not get into altercations with others because perhaps the people around us are permissive or enablers, meaning they simply comply with us being entitled. I experienced this and I realized how I was operating under a sense of entitlement unknowingly, yet people were actually not being themselves around me. And this one is particularly crucial, especially if you want to ever become a leader who is democratically chosen or a leader in any sort of form of organization or position. And if you want to last in an appointed role, because if people walk on eggshells around you, yet you think I'm respected because of your sense of entitlement, one mistake you make and they will throw you under the bus. So this is not a safety position at all. I don't know why, but I just thought of that entertainer, that mogul who ran Bad Boy Records. He seemed to have such a sense of entitlement. And it's amazing how at the end, they're just throwing him under the bus. And E, another way you can do this, if it's, let's say, work related, you could ask for a 360-degree feedback from your work colleagues. If it's personal, you could ask your spouse and others that you share strong, good, loving relationships with. You can simply ask, what are my blind spots? And collate your answers from A to E. Be honest with yourself and strive to make positive changes moving forward from your realizations. And remember, the people around you also take time to adjust too, but it's for the best. As you answer these questions, I say try and find the root cause of how you ended up entitled. If you're not entitled, that's great. If you are entitled, though, you do this by 1, examining why you are entitled. And just to give you some pointers, is it because it makes you feel special, significant, respected, valued, and appreciated? Does it make you feel deserving of honor of your title and professional credentials? Number 2, does this stem from an unmet childhood need? Number 3, did a previous relationship or life experience cause you to become entitled? Perhaps you were not seen or not appreciated in the past, so you demand it now. Because you are one of those who are like, if I don't demand my entitleties, I'll never get them. And I get that. But then you don't want the knock-on effect of it messing up your current relationships. A few things I used when I explored areas where I found I was entitled. I'm going to share them as some helpful mindset shifts. And they are to be accountable for your behavior. If you have this entitled kind of mindset and you behave a certain way, become accountable for it. Don't blame anyone. Own it and go, oh my goodness, that's me. Wow. So this is how I am. Number 2, do not take things personally. And this one is a game changer. And I say this with love because sometimes when people do certain things, we'll be like, oh, they're just mean. They just want to be nasty to me. That just takes you into being a victim. Whereas if you really want to overcome anything, just see yourself as like, my goodness, this revelation is helping me. And if I want to improve and become better, wow, I won't take it personally. But if you do, you need to deal with the trigger. What is it revealing in you, right? And if you do manage to not take things personally or you want to know how to do it, you depersonalize yourself from someone else. You depersonalize yourself from that person. You just take what you've been told and don't go, oh, they're just nasty and mean to me. Just go, okay, this is what I've been told. This is what's at hand. I'm entitled. And when I'm entitled, I am rude, right? And just go, gosh, why am I rude? These are hard things to do. And let me tell you, if you feel awful going through this, I want you to know that's normal. So I'm going to tell you the third thing that you need to do to try and alleviate these very uncomfortable feelings. Practice gratitude on a daily basis. Take time each day to reflect on all the things you have to be thankful for, rather than focusing on what you feel you lack or deserve but don't have yet. So instead of like just focusing on, oh, I'm bad or people are so bad, focus more into thankfulness, like gratitude, like, oh, thank goodness I am alive. Thank goodness, I get to enjoy every day. Thank goodness people actually tell me things because it shows that there's something great in me. Cultivate empathy towards others by putting yourself in their shoes and understanding different perspective. It's so important because I found one way to stop being entitled is for me to sort of like just look at myself and my issue as if it's the only valid one. But when I think, gosh, people are valid to say whatever they say, it sort of like makes you more empathic to understand them. And it's another way of depersonalizing yourself from someone else and not taking things personally. And I just want you to know, if you struggle with this, that's where I come in, because I can help you look at the blind spots. Number 5. Oh, I love this one. I am laughing even before I say it. Live with no one owes me anything. Just because I exist and others exist, we all deserve respect. Do you know, if we live from a place of knowing that everyone deserves respect and no one knows us anything, it's so empowering because it makes you go into a place thinking, I am going to serve and contribute instead of I'm just going to take and be entitled. It's a game changer. It's very, very, very useful. And I am going to add in something that I find is also very useful for you, because we're not going into this false humility mindset of, oh, if I look like I'm humble. No, 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 no. So I will add in, tell yourself that I'm valuable, but then I'm also replaceable. So I will leave a good legacy behind me. Yeah? I think that's important as well. So now that we have talked about what to do, looking at yourself, there are some great attitudes that we could embody. So what do I mean by embody them? It means that it's not just your head knowledge. Your body starts to agree with your mind when you believe something. Even when you come across people, they will genuinely feel that you are a genuine person because you embody the qualities that you bring to them. It's not an act. So, great attitudes to embody as you learn how to see others kindly and ditch being entitled are things like treat everyone with respect and dignity, regardless of their perceived status or importance, because ultimately we're all human beings and we all deserve kindness and compassion. Even the drug addict on the street, that person is made in God's image. So they're also important. The underlying root to entitled individuals is actually often a feeling of unworthiness and being inadequate, especially without being validated by others. And the issue with embracing an entitled mindset is that it can be addictive, providing a false sense of power and control. You can imagine if you feel unworthy and inadequate and you need others to validate you. It's like all I can think of, like, you need to suck that energy out of people by just taking. And this is why I say to know that when you're entitled, it's not coming from a secure place. Sense of control from entitlement, sense of power crumbles when you don't get what you feel entitled to. And it will leave you feeling powerless and insignificant, which is why entitlement breeds a false sense of power and control, an illusion that crumbles when you are denied what you believe you deserve. The harsh reality, folks, is an entitled mindset stems from insecurity, which is why from the beginning I said feeling entitled sets you up for failure. Because when you believe you deserve something and you don't receive it, you will feel like you are owed, which comes from a place of scarcity. See it this way: because respect wasn't given to you, so you demand respect as if you lack respect in the first place. Because you were not honored as you should have been, you somehow feel like you lack significance, so you therefore have to demand to be significant. Essentially, you are admitting that you do not possess these qualities of respect and significance unless someone else validates them in you for you to feel worthy or significant in return. Do you see what I mean when I say entitlement sets you up for failure? Because all it does is just expose the fact that you do not embody who you think you are and who you say you are confidently. I am speaking to you, the entitled individuals, by letting you know that the safety you seek in entitlement does not come and will not come from the actions of others towards you. Entitlement is not something you can manipulate or control, because by doing so, you become abusive and narcissistic. And I want you to know, if you are an entitled individual, life is unpredictable. And even Jesus Christ, a revered figure, faced opposition. So come on. If you must constantly remind others of your worth or significance, that exposes that you're not secure in your position, personhood, and in your identity. If you want to embrace true power and authority, simply just be confident. Let your influence speak for itself without the need for entitlement. True power, wealth, and authority are not flaunted. They emanate from within, influencing and inspiring those around you. If you're somebody who's able to read like body language, all the body language experts actually say this: a commanding presence is felt, it is not forced upon others. True power is magnetic and inspiring, and it doesn't rely on external validation. I just think of that quote, if you've ever seen Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. And that responsibility is important to figure out, is it to abuse people and be entitled, or is it actually to serve people and be a good leader? I know I have triggered some of you, but that is the whole point. As I have grown into being a life coach and in my personal development work, I have seen and experienced a great deal to see what needs tackling for our personal growth. And finally, remember that instead of being entitled and demanding recognition and rewards, work on your success blueprint. No one argues with true success, which comes from hard work, perseverance, and humility, not from our sense of entitlement, which only validates our need to feel worthy from others. So I would love to know what your thoughts are and would love to see your shares on the questions I asked earlier to check if you're entitled. And thank you so much, as that wraps up today's episode. Let's strive to break free from toxic entitlement and focus instead on cultivating a sense of humanity through respecting others. Has been Undefined Life Podcast. Until next time, stay happy and self-aware. And remember to share this message. If it has transformed you, you know it will transform someone else's life. And if you're looking for a life coach, if you're looking for someone to help you personally develop, coach you into your greatness, help you in your relationships, then look up the links in my show copy notes and get in touch. And I wish you a wonderful week. Take care. Bye.